Hello, everyone. It's Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage. I'm a life coach for divorced, heart-centered, empathic women. And on this channel, I discuss themes related to how to heal and thrive in order to move forward and live a happier life after divorce. In this video, I want to discuss how to safely leave a marriage. The reason I bring this up is because even though I mainly focus on women who've already gone through a divorce, I noticed that I have a small following of married women who are thinking about getting a divorce. So I wanted to create this video to specifically talk to them and what they should be thinking about before they tell their spouse they want to get a divorce. As always, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Make sure this video gets pushed up in the algorithm so other women just like you can find my content. All right, let's jump into it. First, let's discuss the things you want to consider before you ask your spouse for a divorce. First, have you actually tried marriage counseling? Again, not trying to say that maybe you should or shouldn't get a divorce, but before I left my marriage, I made sure that I did everything I could to save my partnership and to figure out what was going well and what wasn't going well and what we could do to work things out. So if you haven't already, I highly suggest marriage counseling. The second thing you want to consider is, have you had an open and honest communication with your spouse about the issues in the marriage? Like, have you sat down? Have you talked to them? Have you been direct? Have you written a letter? Have you tried all forms of communication, including a mediator or a counselor, to really help them understand where you are, where you want to be, and where you're coming from? And then give them space to explain their perspective. Have you done that yet? If you have children, have you thought about how a divorce might affect them? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that as a woman, you should stay in a marriage just for the sake of the children, because at the end of the day, if it's an abusive marriage or a dangerous marriage or just a very contemptuous marriage, the children are going to be affected negatively. But overall, have you thought about the pros and the cons of how this will affect your children as they move? Next, how will the divorce affect your finances and your assets? Now, again, we're trying to think with our brains and not our hearts right now. If you're in a dangerous situation, you need to get out of it. But if you're in a situation where you and your spouse are pretty much single anyway, and you're just roommates living together, before you sign on dotted line for a divorce, ask yourself, what does our finances look like? Could I actually live on my own if I were to get a divorce? Is this situation tolerable for a time until I get my finances in order before I get a divorce? So these are questions you want to start asking yourself before you make that decision. Lastly, are you prepared to recreate your life as a single woman? Now, again, if you've been married for a long period of time, you may have forgotten what it's like to be single and out here in the world. Remember, the grass is not always greener on the other side. So are you mentally prepared to have that life again as a single woman without a partner, without, someone to talk to, going home by yourself, thinking about your own safety? I mean, these are all things that in any woman's life, but especially a single woman, that you have to think about, except you don't have a partner to rely on. Are you prepared for that? Now, if you've thought through all of what I just discussed and you know that divorce is the best decision, then it's important to make sure you're leaving your marriage safely and intelligently. So I'm going to go over 5 ways, again, to safely leave your marriage after you've considered everything I've talked about. The first thing, you want to get therapy or coach. And again, this is individual therapy. So I'm not talking about a marriage counselor. I'm talking about therapy for you or coaching for you, because you're going to need help emotionally and emotional support as you transition out of that marriage. And a therapist who specifically helps women who have gone through a divorce or abuse or trauma is definitely going to help you through that transition. And a coach who also can help you as you go through that transition, who specifically deals with, post-divorce life, how to really help women that have gone through a divorce would be helpful. So either one or both. I've actually coached women who are also in therapy. So they're coming to me and a therapist at the same time. So really think through of a therapist or a coach that you can work with as you make that transition way before you even tell your spouse, so that you can start getting mentally and emotionally prepared for the next steps of your life. Number 2, if you haven't already, you want to emotionally and spiritually detach. So what does that mean? When you think about detachment, you think about pulling away or splitting apart. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Before you actually get a divorce or physically leave your spouse, you need to fully mentally and emotionally leave. You need to, and this sounds pretty harsh, but you need to get to the point where you see your spouse is like you see your coworker. Like, hey, how you doing? All right, great. Have a nice life. Because at that point, you have to be willing to take your emotions off the table. And I know that is so difficult when you are still in love with someone or you still have an emotional attachment, but that is the whole point. You have to start being able to think with your logical mind and not your heart mind. And in order to do that, you have to start emotionally detaching from that person, especially if there's contention in the relationship and there's this back and forth and the resentment and anger and all of that is just going to stir up more issues as you're going through the divorce process. So as much as you can, you want to emotionally detach. You want to be able to eventually look at that person without so much anger, so much resentment, or so much frustration, and quite literally wish them the best and hope that they can find someone that does work for their life. So that means that you have to start focusing on yourself right now. You have to start focusing on taking care of yourself. You have to start focusing on almost creating a single life for yourself while you're still in the house with your spouse. What does that look like for you? What values do you want to have as a woman who is about to be single again? What belief systems do you want to have? What does that life look like? You have to start to emotionally detach and start to become a self-differentiated woman outside of your marriage before you actually leave. So that when it starts to get choppy, and it will, whenever you go through a divorce, it's going to get difficult. You have to be willing to use your brain and say, I know this person is just trying to get under my skin. I'm not going to let it trigger me because I am no longer emotionally attached to them. So it's okay if they're angry, let them be angry. I still need to do what's best for me. Because if you're not there when you're going through the divorce process, it's going to make it even more difficult to physically leave the house if you're still highly emotionally attached to that person. Number 3, your finances. Before you even tell your spouse you want a divorce, you need to start thinking through finances and assets. Is your spouse the breadwinner and you're the stay-at-home homemaker or parent? Are they in charge of all the money? What does your money look like? Do you have a separate account? Have you been saving money? If you were to leave right now, would you know how to budget? Would you know how to take care of yourself? Would you know how to pay bills? Do you have any investments that you can rely on? You have to take into account all of those things before you get a divorce or before you even tell your spouse you want a divorce, because all of that is going to be pulled apart once you get a divorce. So your entire lifestyle may change. If you're accustomed to living in a certain lifestyle that you had because of that person's finances, that may not be the lifestyle that you're going to be living in once you leave them. So that's something that you have to consider. And I would tell any woman, whether she's married, single, or divorced, you always want to make sure that you stay on top of your finances and have a nest egg just for you, just in case something happens. Because even if your spouse were to pass away, you still need to have a deep understanding of your finances so that you can continue to take care of yourself. So definitely make sure that you have your finances in order before you ask for a divorce. Number 4, consult with an attorney. This is something that I cannot tell you. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. I don't care what circumstances you're in. There are plenty of attorneys out there that some of them charge a fee and some of them don't charge a consulting fee for you to consult with them, just understanding the laws of your state. If you share assets, what does that look like? Does he actually get control of your premarital assets? In some states they do, in some states they don't. Did you have a prenuptial agreement? What are the rules of that prenuptial agreement? I mean, these are all things that you have to consult with an attorney to really understand what is involved in the legal process. Now, luckily, when I got divorced, we didn't have a whole lot of assets tied together. So it was a fairly smooth divorce process. And there are some spouses who, just to see you suffer, will pull you through and drag you through the mud during that court process. So you need to make sure that you consult with a knowledgeable attorney when it comes to your rights and the state laws around the divorce process. And next, get a secret storage unit. So I know a lot of you are thinking, ooh, Tiffany, what are you going to put in the secret storage unit, or how malicious are you? No, that's not what I mean. I'm not saying a secret storage unit to steal things from your spouse, because that is a thing. If you all share a home together and there are certain things that belong to the both of you, you can't put it in a storage unit that he doesn't know about. However, there are things that belong to you before you married him that are specifically yours that you can slowly start moving to that storage unit. For example, family heirlooms that you had when you met your spouse. It doesn't belong to him, it belongs to you. You can put that in a storage unit. Now, again, talk to your lawyer, understand the laws of the state. The state that I lived in at the time of my divorce, we had something called marital property and premarital property. And anything that was a premarital asset was mine. And so I put it in a secret storage unit along with personal filings, like tax filings that I had before I met him, that I put into a secret storage unit because they were things that we just brought in the house together, right? You know, you go from single to married and you bring all your stuff with you. Well, I started moving all those things that I had before him when I was single that was important and that I would need, just in case he got angry one day and found out, you know, that when I told him I wanted a divorce and just destroyed all my stuff, there was nothing to destroy because all the things that were really important to me were in that secret storage unit. Again, talk to your lawyer, find out if you can do this, if this is something that's legal in your state. But 9 times out of 10, there is nothing against you having a secret storage unit that your spouse does not know about. The other good thing about your secret storage unit, and this is especially true if you're going through an abusive marriage or you feel like your life is in danger, you want to take clothes to that storage unit. You want to take things that if you had to quickly leave, you can go to that storage unit and grab and keep moving and keep going. You know, if you have to take copies of insurance cards, you know, paperwork, anything dealing with your bank accounts or your personal finances, you can put in that storage unit that he does not know about. So again, make sure that you are consulting with an attorney, keeping yourself safe, and letting other people know about what's going on in the marriage should things go awry once you tell your spouse that you want a divorce. So again, these are all things to consider if you're still in a marriage, you're thinking about divorce, you're watching my channels, you love all the tips that I give on my YouTube channel, in my Facebook group, and you're like, oh, Tiffany, I'm at that point where I'm not quite sure what to do. Please watch this video. Please think through the process, because divorce is literally like separating a company, especially if you have a lot of assets with that person, especially if there's a lot of legalese things that went on in the marriage. You have to make sure this is the best decision for your entire life, not just for the moment. I hope you enjoyed today's video and was able to get more understanding of what you should be thinking about before you get a divorce to make sure you're safe and prepared. If this is something you want to learn more about, then definitely download my free 5-day mindset detox workbook and join my free private Facebook women's community to get support. Both links are in my description. All right, as always, make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be notified of every single time that I release a video. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.